The Republican infighting in Congress has truly never been worse. It has never been more apparent that this chaos isn't just confined to individual chambers, but is tearing through both the House and the Senate simultaneously. And that is exactly what we are going to dive into tonight. We have a Republican in the Senate actively trying to sabotage and dismantle Mike Johnson's majority, and frankly, for good reason. This goes way beyond mere ideological disputes or policy disagreements. This is about a degenerate, disgusting, and criminal Republican being called out by someone within his own party. And it's all threatening to blow Mike Johnson's majority sky high. This is perhaps the darkest chapter of Republican infighting we have ever witnessed, but we are going to uncover all of it. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now it all starts with the reality that Mike Johnson, despite holding the gavel, is the Speaker of the House in name only. Everything is fundamentally falling apart within his caucus. There's been some incredible reporting on this, and that's where I want to start, before we get into the story of the Republican who is determined to end Mike Johnson's majority well before we even reach November. Notices reports there are no rules anymore, how leaders in Congress lost control. Early afternoon on April 16th, a small block of GOP House moderates broke ranks and voted to pass legislation protecting Haitian refugees. About an hour later, a small block of far-right Republicans broke ranks to sabotage a procedural vote on an intelligence surveillance bill. Neither of those things is supposed to happen, not when lawmakers are observing the unwritten rules of the congressional road. The moderates defied Republican leaders on a discharge petition, a procedural move to go around the usually all-powerful Speaker of the House. And the staunch conservatives bucked party leadership on a rules vote that is normally a perfunctory party unity measure that sets up debate on the actual legislation. Over 28 years from 1995 till early 2023, only 8 rules votes got rejected, including 20 straight years without one failing, according to research by a senior congressional expert at the US Chamber of Commerce. And over the same time frame, only 3 discharge petitions got the requisite 218 signatures to overcome the majority leadership's objections. In the last year though of Mike Johnson's majority, House leaders have lost the rules vote 11 times, and 7 discharge petitions hit the magic number to overcome opposition from the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. There are no rules anymore, said a veteran Republican congressman who is retiring at the end of his term. Zinke, who first won election in 2014, wasn't talking about official rules of Congress, but instead the disappearing norms of the institution. Mike Johnson can't govern. Republicans can't govern. Let's be very clear about that. Let's also be clear why they can't govern. And it's because they don't want to. They don't have any interest in actually doing the job. Conservatism in America isn't about preserving, it's about pushing back. Bringing us back to Jim Crow, which Republicans are doing with their gerrymandering across the South right now, which I want to talk about later in this video. There is nothing that they can serve. They don't have traditional family values. Everyone in the Republican Party is a fucking degenerate and a criminal and a sex freak. Like that's what they are. So there's nothing conservative, there's nothing traditional. They are just oppositional in nature. But you cannot be the party in power if you are only oppositional in nature, because you will, as we've seen, get nothing done. Which is why Mike Johnson saying this is ridiculous. Before we get to this article about how his majority that doesn't work might be coming to an end because of a Republican,
they have full-on Trump derangement syndrome, okay? And it informs how they see the world and how they react, and how irresponsible they are now is on full display for the whole country. I hope voters remember this in the fall. You got to keep the grown-ups in charge, and that's the Republicans.
Really, Mike? The adults in the room? Are you kidding me? These people don't actually do anything. They achieve nothing. That's exactly why I wanted to start with that article. Because it is genuinely historic how poorly Mike Johnson has performed as Speaker of the House. And people are fed up. They are exhausted by this broken institution that gets absolutely nothing done, except for enriching its own members and providing a place for senior citizens to hang out at the expense of the rest of us. Now, I'm not saying you can't be older and be successful in government. Bernie Sanders proves that's possible every every single day. But my God, it's like a nursing home in there. We have dementia patients wandering the halls. We've had 8 members of Congress pass away recently? It is pure insanity. People are fed up, including the individuals currently inside the institution. And they should be, especially when dealing with one particularly disgusting Republican member. Of course, there are many to choose from, but the fact that this specific fight is crossing over from the Senate to the House is incredibly shocking, even for this chaotic moment. MAGA Congressman Max Miller accuses his ex-father-in-law, sitting Republican Senator Miller-Moreno of Ohio, of funding a campaign to ruin my life after abuse claims. There is currently a custody battle between Ohio Republican Congressman Max Miller and his ex-wife Emily Moreno, the daughter of Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, which is playing out publicly. Miller reportedly accused his fellow Republican of funding a malicious campaign to ruin his life and denied new allegations of abuse towards his ex-wife and their young child, which People magazine has not independently verified. Senator Bernie Moreno has not publicly responded to Miller's claims and did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The custody battle between Ohio Representative, a Republican, Max Miller, and his ex-wife Emily Moreno, the daughter of Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, is playing out in public, with Max Miller accusing the Republican of a malicious campaign to ruin his life. Responding to allegations published by the Daily Mail, Miller accused his ex-wife of having mental health issues and warned his ex-father-in-law, the Republican senator, "These antics harm your own grandchild," in a post on Friday. Court records reportedly show Miller wants a judge to order psychological evaluations in the couple's child custody battle, citing what he called his ex-wife's increasingly confrontational, irrational, and somewhat bizarre behavior since the couple's divorce. In a motion in the divorce proceedings, the outlet said Moreno claimed Miller regularly spoke to her in an inappropriate, aggressive, and demeaning manner and claimed the congressman has conducted dangerous physical behavior in the child's presence. To be absolutely clear, Max Miller, a Republican from Ohio, is a disgusting, sick piece of garbage. He is an inherently abusive individual. He was abusive towards his ex-wife, towards his child. It is just wild. And here's the kicker. His ex-wife is the daughter of a MAGA senator. And now Miller is out here claiming that this senator is trying to ruin his life and potentially get him expelled from Congress. These are serious abuse claims we are talking about. This is truly disgusting, criminal behavior. And if this continues to gain more public traction, I'm telling you, you're looking at an expulsion vote. You're looking at a forced resignation. You're looking at Mike Johnson once again losing another Republican seat in Congress. According to Max Miller, this is all happening because Bernie Moreno, the Republican senatorial candidate from Ohio, is trying to destroy his career, which, in effect, would destroy Mike Johnson's majority. But this is exactly what the Republican Party is dealing with right now. Again, these are not traditional conservatives. There are no family values here. These are sick, twisted degenerates who have no business being in the halls of Congress. And this chaos is exactly why Donald Trump is doing everything in his power right now to rig the upcoming elections. There's really no other way to describe it. I think Chris Hayes did a phenomenal job breaking down the latest results out of Virginia, showing how Republicans are desperately trying to turn the South back into a Jim Crow era system. I want you to hear what he had to say because it is some incredibly important and powerful reporting.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. You know, the most dramatic thing that a judge or judges can do in a democracy is to just throw out the results of an election. That's as serious as it gets, right? It's essentially unheard of outside of really rare cases of fraud, right? Otherwise, you don't get to just throw out an election. I mean, the idea of one person or a small handful of people setting aside the will of the citizens, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of citizens, that's pretty alien to our democratic traditions. It just doesn't happen that much. That is what happened in the Commonwealth of Virginia today. Shockingly, appallingly, really. The Supreme Court of that state ruled 4-3 to strike down the congressional redistricting plan that, crucially, had been approved by the state voters in a special election last month, as we covered here at this desk, with millions of people campaigning or showing up at the polls. It won 52 to 48%. Again, Weeks of campaigning, millions of dollars spent on ads by both sides, a vigorous public debate, and the people came out, 3 million, to the polls in that Virginia referendum, and a majority of the people said, yes, we want these new maps. And today, a panel of judges, by the narrowest of margins, 4-3, tossed that result out because they say of a technical issue with how that referendum got on the ballot, their interpretation of one word in a state statute. They didn't just block the new congressional map, they vetoed the election. And in so doing, they have also sent the American political system in toto barreling back towards Jim Crow disenfranchisement. As we've been covering closely on the show, as you know have been following, they have handed Republicans now a huge victory in the race to the bottom gerrymandering arms race that Trump started to stay in power. Donald Trump is afraid of losing his power in a free and fair election. He's very afraid of being impeached again. He said as much earlier this year, on January 6th, in fact.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached.
Find a reason? At this point, it's harder to find reasons not to impeach him. And so Donald Trump came up with a plan to rig the midterms, a combination of gerrymandering Democrats out of their House seats in red states. Again, in the middle of the decade, when this is just never done. It's done every 10 years of the census, but screw that, right? So they're going to do that and then pass this national bill that would be the most onerous voter suppression law in American history. And he was very clear about this, right? The point wasn't to persuade the median voter, the cross-pressured voter, that they had the best agenda. No, it was these two means to barricade themselves into power. He explicitly said that the point was to engineer races where people can't vote Republicans out of office.
I'll tell you what, Republicans have to win this one. We'll never lose a race. For 50 years, we won't lose a race. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship. And we don't want mail-in ballots.
Right? So that's the plan, to change the way voting happens, to change the districts, to basically change the rules of the game rather than actually compete in the game. And while Republicans have yet to pass those voting restrictions into law, though they've tried, they have all across the country, with some notable exceptions like India and other places, gone all in on Trump's gerrymandering plan. This, I can't stress this enough, this has never happened before, what we're seeing. Never. There was one mid-decade redistricting in Texas under George W. Bush. That was a huge deal. But what we've seen at Trump's direction is that in red state after red state, they have been squeezing out blue districts. And in response to that, Democrats have countered to try to level the playing field, to get things back to par, to get things back to even so that voters can actually decide who should be in Congress. In California and Virginia, Democrats in those states submitted plans for the new maps to the voters. They didn't just ram them through. They said, look, this is our proposal. They went to the voters, and in both states, the voters said, yes. What a novel idea. What a novel idea. Giving the voters a say in all this, in how districts are drawn, how maps are drawn, in who represents them. The voters saying, the voters. Have you heard of them? That's the thing Republicans are trying to destroy.
Look, we are at a point where we simply have to stop playing by the old rules. Abigail Spanberger should look at that court order and say, no. Seriously, we cannot afford to play by the rules anymore when the other side has already torn up the rule book. We have lost so much of our democracy already. We cannot afford to lose another inch just because we are too afraid to break norms or because we feel the need to constantly bend the knee to Republicans. The idea that we always have to play nice, forget the norms, okay? It's time to fight back or else we aren't going to have a democracy left to save. It's that simple. We are going to call out every single bit of this cowardice on this show. And if you want to support that mission, as always, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you've stuck around with me until the very end, drop a blue heart in the comments so I know you're in this fight with us. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'm Liam Prescott and I'll see you in the next one.